Kabir, thanks for joining us on the show. Dunzo has, of course, played a very important role through the pandemic. How busy a time has this been for you folks at Dunzo? If you could perhaps give us a sense through some data points. I read somewhere that you're a bit of a data nerd.
Okay, that's a good place to start. No, the business allows you to measure everything. Why not? Right. So no, I think as a business, we have grown about 300 odd percent over the last 12 to 15 months time. It's uh, it's been uh, it's been very interesting to learn as to how people react to a crisis like this. Uh, Not only our internal teams as customers, etc., and our partners and our merchants. And I think what that has done is we've been able to grow the platform much bigger than where we were. I think about 15 to 18 months back. Users are transacting at significantly higher frequency than what they used to. Their average order values are very what you call much higher. And I think what that has done is, I think for a very large set of customers, we have gone ahead and become their primary means to go ahead and order daily and weekly essentials. And that's allowing us to really now start to see network effects play out on the platform.
Yeah. Your frontline workers have been true heroes in this time of great need. Let's talk about some of the things you've done for their well being and safety, and which in turn, again, is connected to the merchant safety as well as your customer safety.
No, absolutely. I think none of this works without the delivery partners on the ground and on the merchants who are actually choosing to open their shops, right? I think in both those cases, what we have done is I think we have made sure that I think education was really important at the top because not enough understanding exists for this. So massive amounts of education going ahead and what you call enabling them with the necessary things that they would need like masks, sanitizers, training them on social distancing, making sure that they understand preventive measures. We also built some product changes into the platform, which meant that even if we got a lot of orders for the same store, we would make sure that partners wouldn't go crowd the same store up, so that we could maintain some fashion of what you call social distancing. Then there was this whole idea of what you call as the vaccination started. I think we have started making sure that the partners can go ahead and get vaccinated or tested as efficiently and as quickly as those tests or vaccines are available. But yeah, I think comes down to those two three things as pillars, right? One is, can you communicate to people exactly what exactly is this and how they can protect themselves. Second is, can you go ahead and get them the necessary things that they need for them to be able to protect themselves without beyond communication. Third is, as soon as there are what you call medical help that's available or required, can you show up for them? Which is, if vaccines are available, let's get it to them. If they need tests, let's get it to them. If they need to go ahead and what you call, and I think we were one of the first people who went ahead and rolled out like a COVID insurance also, which meant delivery partners, if weren't able to come and work, we made sure that I think they were covered for about 3 weeks in terms of the monies that they could go ahead and make off the platform if they were infected by COVID. So no, I think those three pillars, just execute on top of them, and I think make people feel safe in case something happens.
Yeah.
That I think is the most important one, and trying to take away the stigma from the whole thing, because it's scientifically possible to manage it, but it requires effort and it requires constant communication with this TG specifically. So I think I've been able to do fairly all right on that, and try and make sure that these are like, yeah, as you mentioned, right, they are heroes,
Yeah.
and I think they've allowed for millions of customers to stay at home.
Totally.
I think the idea really is to make sure that those millions of customers, when they're staying at home, we are able to take care of the people who are actually going out and doing stuff for them.
Also, the
Yeah.
communication that jobs are safe, that goes a long way, right? And I believe that's something that you did early on.
Yes, I think we've done everything that's possible to make sure that jobs aren't lost. We have had a little bit of what you call change in plans end of last year, in which some parts of the organization, because honestly, what you call order volume wasn't scaling as quickly, even if the what you call overall size of the platform was. There were opportunities to go ahead and make sure that uh, we tried to keep folks for as long as possible. But I think there was a small percentage of people who were impacted. And so even when we went ahead and tried as much as we could, and we have made sure that not too many people get impacted, a small percentage did. This was in last December.
Okay, right. Kabeer, you've launched Dunzo Daily in Bangalore, which is basically a dark store where you stock your own inventory of groceries, medicines, pet supplies, meat, etc., right? To ensure faster delivery of goods, basically. So now I understand you plan to expand this significantly to over 700 neighborhoods, some 250 plus stores, I think, over the next few months. So I just want to get a sense of the fact that as the scaling happens, is more hiring in the pipeline as well?
Of course, I think so. As the platform grows, we will go ahead and add people, right? I think the idea really is I think a lot of our what do you call business up till date was targeting maybe the top 10, 15 million customers in India, right? And I think one of the big things that we have learned because of the pandemic is the opportunity actually really exists to go target maybe like 45, 50 million customers in the country with the same use case. They all want convenience for their what you call daily and weekly essentials. Right. But I think convenience means different things to different segments of customers. And I think once we figured out that there was this large set of customers who are coming online for the first time and trying to start trying us out and literally go ahead and what you call start running their daily and weekly lives or livelihoods based upon Dunzo, so that they don't have to step out. I think we quickly figured that we had to change the model about 12 or 15 months back, where for these customers, we needed to go ahead and create a much simpler shopping experience and a definitely cheaper delivery experience. And so what we did was, the answer to that really was that people can go ahead and keep shopping from specific stores, etc., if they want. But that really works for the top 5 or 7 million customers in the country. For a really large set of customers in the country who form the urban middle class, right? They need a much simpler shopping experience. That is just about what items can you get to me and how quickly can you get it to me and at what price point. And I think for that, we had to make sure that we go ahead and what you call roll the warehouses out. And that's really the plan. We've gone ahead and seen a lot of success with the warehouses rolling out. Every warehouse, of course, goes ahead and what you call enables 15 or 20 people to go ahead and also get employed with it. And so potentially we will go ahead and have about 200 to 250 warehouses in about 24 months time.
Okay, and right now you have 2 operational, right? Indiranagar and Bengaluru, if I'm not wrong.
No, this number changes very quickly. I think we're now at about 11.
Okay, wow. Okay, that's fast progress. And what's the current staff strength like at Dunzo, Kabeer?
We are about 900 plus people, about 450 people on rolls and another 450 odd people off roll.
Okay, and as you sort of achieve that target of reaching 250 odd neighborhoods, how much is that number likely to go up?
Not done the math yet. We will also find efficiency and stuff like that. I think we'll know hopefully by end of this year, because the early ones are usually what you call a little bit more inefficient. And when the numbers are tiny, right, like whether it is going to be 7 people or 15 people to be able to scale a warehouse out, can have a very material difference at 200, 250, right? So I think by the end of the year, we'll have our most hyper optimized warehouses in place, at which point I think we'll be able to go ahead and estimate the number correctly.
Oh, that's fair. And as far as your corporate employees are concerned, Kabeer, if you could briefly talk about some of the initiatives you introduced for them through the pandemic. I mean, this has, of course, been very difficult for everybody across the board.
I know. It's been unique, no, slightly. Were you in Bangalore before this hit? Or have you always been in Delhi?
No, I work out of Delhi.
You work out of Delhi. No, so I think, of course, making work from home work is work. I'll be honest, it's not really that straightforward. In office it's simpler, you just get everybody here, you have facilities and people will take care of themselves, but work from home doesn't work as simply. So I think we've gone ahead and basically called work from home for till the end of the year, and I'll be honest, by the way, at this point of time, Ramako, I don't see us going back. Right. the savings on commute are seriously very large for people. And also people have just moved bases, right? I think we have people who work out of Puch Bihar, and we have people who work out of Singapore, and we have people who work out of Michigan. All of them as a part of our corporate team.
Wow.
Right. It's that scale of what you call spreading apart now is really hard to go ahead and bring and control back in, is what we're realizing. And actually, we're happy about it also. I do think, though, one needs to go make this work a little bit better, which means I think you have to actively think about the time that people spend on calls or in front of meetings. You actively need to think about the fact that people, what you call, have a comfortable workstation at home, and are going ahead and making sure that it's a space that they have gone ahead and created around it. It sounds flippant or small, but it's really important because you're going to spend most of your life now sitting in that area. And so it's important that people think through as to how they go ahead and what you call create their workstations and work design. I also think there's this whole idea of how do you drive collaboration in remote teams. It was a thought that used to be very big, right? But I think um, it wasn't really implemented really well before COVID. Now I think just you have to figure this out for people. How do you figure out break time? How do you figure out lunch timings? How do you make sure that people actively have what you call common time between each other? That is a break time or an off time, so that they're able to go ahead and make sure that they're not bothering each other. I think those were just things that we had to figure out very quickly and rapidly. One other thing that I think is something that we have learned is I think we're definitely seeing what you call more space for mental health and wellness conversations
Mhm.
regarding the time that everybody is facing. Uh, Given one, the kind of distress that exists outside, and then not being able to go ahead and have social interactions around it, right? They're both, I think, multiplying for a lot of people. And I think to be able to genuinely think through as to what mental health and wellness will look like for everybody on the team is now become a really active thing that we need to solve for. Ideally, I'll be honest, we should have been solving for it before COVID also. But I think COVID's actually gone ahead and accelerated our solutioning regarding something like this. Then, of course, there are simpler things like making sure that they all have common cultural time. We are able to find how do you celebrate in a remote environment, because a lot of what you call building for impossible goals is to actually go ahead and believe in them, and also go ahead and what you call celebrate the in betweens.
And that's where
um,
culture building also somewhere comes in, right, Kabeer?
Yeah, and I think how do you consciously build that culture on Zoom is a question. It's not really a straightforward. And I think so. We have had enough wins in being able to do that. We've also failed a few times. Some things that we tried, what you call, didn't work. Some things that we tried worked better than we expected. We try and make sure that there is a culture hour, something that happens on every Friday evening now, some nature or the other, where people are able to huddle together and have a chat. Right? How do you go ahead and increase the frequency of communication?
Hmm.
Because honestly, earlier before this, you could go ahead and catch people into what you call into like a small group or a huddle, or you would pass people in corridors, etc. None of that exists, and so now you have to go ahead and make sure that the frequency of communication actually goes up. I genuinely think working from home is a lot more work than than actually going to office and working.
No, it sure is. Also at Dunzo, you all are big advocates for fostering diversity and inclusion in the workplace and beyond. I'd like for you to talk about some of the things you all consciously do to encourage diversity within the company as well as within the ecosystem.
I think there was an early understanding of Dunzo customers come from all walks of life. Right? This is everybody who potentially could go ahead and what you call want to solve for some inefficiency in their lives can become a Dunzo customer. And I think when that realization hit in, right? I think it's important that as a team, we go ahead and what you call reflect at least in some percentages who our customers are, because otherwise you can start building in silos quite a bit.
Hmm.
You can start building for so like for example, if your entire team is male, right? They often have never bought grocery actively from a store, and don't understand as to what preferences are other people looking for when they're actually going ahead and buying grocery, right? And I think a lot of what you call this variety is very important to go ahead and bake into the DNA and the culture of the organization, as well as the make of it. Because if you don't go ahead and very deliberately make an organization that goes ahead and looks for a mix, right, of people who have, I think, diverse views, and can come express those, what you call, at all points of decision making. I think it doesn't allow for you to go build the best experiences for our customers. It shows up in our brand. It shows up in the way we go about doing hiring. It goes up and shows up in our what you call in our cultural values with deep effect. But it basically comes from the fact that, do we believe that this is something that's worth prioritizing? And if it's worth prioritizing, how do we make sure that we can add it to every touch point in the organization in a very deliberate fashion?
Yeah.
So no, just a lot of active work to make sure that it happens.
Dunzo is like an established verb, especially in Bangalore and perhaps in some other centers too. You often hear people say, "I'll Dunzo it to you," or "You can Dunzo it to me." How do you and your colleagues feel about this? Does it sound like power, responsibility, or just excitement?
Usually always responsibility, right? But I think with responsibility comes the whole idea of making sure that so many users trust us, for having created a category. We have to deliver for them, and we have to make sure that we do them. We do them proud with every transaction that they do. A very large set of our customers have been acquired organically, right? And this is largely because of word of mouth, where people have gone about telling each other, saying, "Hey, there's this great service, Dunzo, you should go try it, or you can Dunzo something," and stuff like that. And I think once they have gone ahead and what you call put their own, I don't know, their own reputation on the line, when they've gone ahead and told other people to go try it out, it just is a massive responsibility to deliver for every customer and every user who actually comes, tries it, because they've most likely been told by somebody else, right? And that person who's actually telling them is somebody who wants to be able to brag about a product that we created. We just are really thankful to them to go do it, and then post that, I think, just to make sure that every time and somebody else that they have recommended tries us out, we gotta show up. And I think the number one thing that we focus on as an organization is to make sure that every order runs perfectly. That's our primary motive, and I know that that really helps, because I think that's really what drives our flywheel also.
Absolutely. And Kabeer, before I let you go, there's one question I make sure that I ask all leaders, which is that at the end of the day, they're just as human as anyone else, and in these times would feel just as vulnerable and anxious. So how can one find some peace and calm amidst balancing personal anxieties and those of the team? If you could perhaps talk about some of the things you or other leaders at Dunzo do.
This whole thing is a tough gig, man. It's just I think being open to having conversations, I think, is the cornerstone, right? I think to be able to build a level of trust with your teams and and the people that we work with, that nothing's unspeakable about. Right? If it requires a conversation, and if you require time to be able to handle something, or if there's anything that we can help with, that's the one thing that we can bring on the table, right? Everything else is a little bit of a shenanigan that might exist. But the fact that you're open to having an honest conversation about literally anything that somebody else might be facing, is, I think, just the cornerstone of being able to go ahead and what you call build one, great culture, and secondly, hopefully, what you call make sure that everybody who's facing this anxiety and the stresses of going ahead and what you call managing everything during these times, and honestly being vulnerable while that's happening, right, is just, I think, the one thing that we can bring to the table. I actually once read this, Ramakanto, and I think that really hit home with me. And this is actually written by a friend in a particular blog that he wrote. He wrote, vulnerability sounds like truth and often feels like courage. And truth and courage aren't always comfortable, but they are never a weakness. right? And I think it just hits home in terms of what you can do with what you call creating culture, as well as being able to have these conversations openly. That talking about something is never a weakness, right? And we'll always make sure that it doesn't feel like it. We'll always want to be endearing about it. And everybody has their own ways of going ahead and managing that. I think being open to their ways of managing it are important. Like in my case, it is about an hour and a half of working out every day in the morning. That's the only way I can manage it, and I think everybody appreciates and allows me to go have that hour and a half in the morning, because it allows me to function for the rest of the day. It's an easier way to handle it. And other people have a more difficult way to go about handling it. But I think whatever is their process, I think it's important to be able to listen to it, and be able to make room for it. I think those are the real things that we can bring to the table always.
Yep, I think that's a very interesting note to end on today. Thank you so much, Kabeer, for taking the time out and joining us on the show. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Amarko. This was really fun. Thanks for having us.
Cheers, our pleasure.